There will be a GT6 Pro, and it will be metal because I'm waiting for the motorcycle. Because again, like last time.
This is the ending of the video already.
Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joar, and today is Friday, June 21st, 2024. And once again, I have the lovely Nirave Gondhia here with me. Hi, Nirave. How are you?
Hello, darling. I am delightful. It's Friday, about to get on a plane. And most importantly, before I do that tomorrow, today is a Friday, which can only mean Prosecco. And lots and lots
indeed.
of it.
I want the audience to know that I want to give Nirave a special thanks for being on the show this week because I had another guest schedule who last night, the last second, had a major emergency to deal with. And so you're seeing Nirave twice roughly in a month right now because he's here to rescue me and fill in. So thank you so much, Nirave. Appreciate it.
Always. Any opportunity to talk to you.
Absolutely. It's been kind of quiet this week. There's some interesting phones. I've got one of them here, the Realme GT6. I need to set it up, so I won't really be able to show you.
I have the other one, but it's at home.
Okay. And then, I wanted to chat with you a little bit about the Copilot PCs, the Snapdragon X PCs, because they are finally out as of the 18th this week. They came out. So we got a little bit of stuff to chat about there. Then the Apple Vision non-Pro rumors, or the rumors that they're not going to work on a Pro 2 for a while. I thought, since you cover Apple quite a bit, we should talk about that. But basically, a lot of it is just more like general phone news. And that means we can go on tangents and enjoy ourselves. Woohoo.
I mean, you mean more than normal when there's non-general phone news and we still go on tangents.
For sure. Last time we were pretty packed on the schedule, I remember that, and I managed to squeeze it all in. I was pretty impressed. So Realme GT6, look, I've got it here. This is very shiny. This is the color they sent me, which is kind of like a silver. It's a two-tone thing, right? So it's got like this very shiny mirror top, and you can see the Realme logo. I like it too. It's very thin. It's very...
I remember reading on Twitter, someone was like, oh, look, they copied the iPhone design. And I just went,
no,
and all the comments were like, are you nuts? And then I was looking at it going, I could see why someone might think that, but also, no. This is when you need someone to just go up to him, smack him. I don't condone corporal punishment apart from stupidity like this. You just want to go, no.
Well, the thing about this phone that's interesting is there's really kind of three versions of this phone, really. Also, like iPhone, okay, look, first of all, it's got a rounded edge display, as you can see here, like waterfall edge, curved edges. So like no iPhone has that. Number two, the frame is plastic. Sadly, this is not a Pro model because the GT5 Pro last year was like essentially a OnePlus 12, more or less. And it came out a little before the OnePlus 12. So I expect this is not a super high-end spec phone. Like it's good, but I wouldn't call it like, oh my God, like go, like I think it's a very competitive, like affordable flagship or upper mid-ranger or something like that. What would you call it?
Yeah. I mean, so they wanted to position it as every GT will be a flagship. And I'm like, okay, that's a statement. That's
there are some flagship things about it, like no doubt.
But what's interesting is it's up for pre-order in the UK for £499. For context, I'm just going to Google it, but I believe the Pixel 8a UK
is about that.
The Pixel 8a in the UK is $499 down to $449.
Yeah, so it's
thing.
Like it's a OnePlus 12R.
Well priced. Yeah.
It's a OnePlus 12R, basically.
In fact,
and if you look at the
how much
specs,
that is in the UK.
If you look at the specs, it's pretty much what it is. So, the Euro pricing here is $550, I think, starting.
Well, in the UK, the 12R is £649. Now, I say this because obviously UK is the closest place we can have that kind of reference point to US markets and stuff like that.
Sure.
But this is a 12R, 150 quid cheaper, and honestly, this thing should fly off the shelf.
Yeah. So speaking of specs, what's interesting here, and again, I think the analogy of the 12R is interesting because the 12R is a very well-rounded, affordable entry flagship. And if you look at the specs on this, it's pretty much the same. So the big news here is the Snapdragon 8S Gen 3, which you've already seen on Poco F6. So I've got two now in the house. I have two phones with that new chip from Qualcomm. And, it combines some of the best parts of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. So it's actually a pretty solid chip. And I think from a price perspective, it's much more attractive to a lot of, manufacturers than the big boy, by the 8 Gen 3. So there's that. Massive battery, 5,500 milliamp hour, 120 watt charging. But it's interesting because the GT in the past, GT3, 240 watt, right? And then,
which I have, and it is the most rapid
I have
thing
two.
on
And
earth.
last year, the GT5 non-Pro was also 240 watt, but it had a bigger battery, meaning it didn't charge as fast as the GT3. The GT3 is still the fastest charging BBK Group phone ever made. There are some pretty fast one from Techno, I believe, has a 260 watt. But the point is, this is gone. This is now 120, which, as we know, is fantastic. But it's interesting that they've gone away from this message of like the non-Pro GT phone is going to be the fastest charging phone of BBK Group, because this is not. This is just, and then the other thing it loses from the OnePlus 12R, cameras are very similar. What it loses is it loses the metal frame, but it does get a slightly better main sensor. It's a Lydia sensor. And that to me is, that's nice.
I mean, I'm looking at the spec comparison, and bluntly, this is, I love the 12R.
I mean, it is 6 months newer, right?
Yeah, I think the 12R is a beautiful, beautiful phone.
Yeah.
But honestly, this thing is, this is all the phone that 98% of people in the world need.
No, absolutely. And my point is, if you put them in their case that they come with, like, you're not going to notice the metal frame. It's not going to matter to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to keep in mind. And the other thing to keep in mind, I think that's important, is this is a slightly better main sensor. It's a Lydia LYT 808, it's a Sony sensor with OIS. So very similar in size and spec to the older sensor in the 12R. But of course, the ultra wide is, kind of meh. It's an 8 megapixel without autofocus. It does, however, and this is again where it's better than the 12R, have a 50 megapixel telephoto.
Whereas the 12R is the macro and stuff like that.
Correct.
It has that 2 megapixel macro.
The 12R has that
one.
8 megapixel ultra wide that's kind of meh. And then
which is the same
camera,
one.
Yeah, and the third camera is just a 2 megapixel sticker cam, macro BS, right? So this actually gives you a bunch more options. I don't know what the telephoto power is. Do you see that in the specs if you have the GSM Arena spec sheet up?
So I'm seeing it as a 47 mil.
So that's a 2x. That's roughly.
It's only a 2x telephoto. It has to be.
So it's probably a portrait lens is basically what we're talking about. Think OnePlus 11 the year before.
Think iPhone before they went proper on zoom.
Yeah, but they didn't have a 50 megapixel sensor, so.
Yeah, well, that's actually true. You're right.
So this is going to be interesting for that. And then storage configurations, 8256, 12256, 16512. You expect that. That's typical BBK Group. So, for me, the pluses are the camera system, the Snapdragon 8S Gen 3. Oh, also the display. The display is not a 1080p and not Quad HD 1440p. It's in between, right? So it's one of those kind of like 1220-ish displays. It's actually
1264, yeah,
right?
But it's the same as the 12R, exactly the same, aside from the brightness.
Brightness is brighter at 6,000 nits peak instead of 4,000, which is kind of insane to me. Like, how's that even possible? That anyway, wow.
Okay, I've got to say something.
What?
I am yet to find a company who makes these claims that we're able to objectively achieve the same. Because I'll tell you what, I did 4 years of testing or 3 years of testing at Android Authority. Did all of that. We set up our own lab in SF and all. You remember all of that?
Yeah, I do.
And I'll tell you what, it's near impossible. What they're basically doing is taking this giant laser beam from space and applying it directly to the the ambient light sensor that controls the brightness of the display to get to the 6,000 nits. The reality is, people, nobody needs it. Not one
No.
person needs 6,000 nits. And if you do,
and it's peak, remember? This is only going to appear for a brief second. Like if you're watching HDR content or something. If you're in the bright sunlight, what matters is the high brightness mode, HBM. And the high brightness mode. So if you look at specs, usually it lists nits average, nits high brightness mode, and hit nits peak. Peak is irrelevant. It might happen for a quarter of a second. High brightness mode is important because it tells you how bright the phone can be outside. But the difference between
level.
Yeah, but the difference between say 1,500, HBM versus a 2,000, you won't notice anything. Like it's not a linear scale. 2,000 is not double 1,000, right? So look, it's right. Ultimately, the test is your eyes. You go in, you come to California because we have all the sun in the world. You look out on, you put your phone in the sun, you look at it and you're like, can I read it? And can I read it better than this phone? And that's basically how you can test the nits.
It's fascinating that nits and brightness is now where the world of, hey, we're going to fight everybody on everything. And what we're going to do is we're going to find the most obscure, pointless, irrelevant, and frankly quite useless metrics. I have a few thoughts on peak brightness, clearly.
Look, I mean, I'm the same, but I'm not going to make a fuss about it. Ultimately, if everyone in the industry improves their overall brightness, especially the high brightness mode, I'm happy. Like if they want to boast and say, 6,000, and like I don't care. Give me all the nits. It's fine. Like if it's a selling point for you, and it would be for BBK Group phone that's primarily made for India anyway, it's all about specs.
India, Middle East, that's where
I get it.
Peak brightness. I can imagine using something with 6,000 nits peak brightness in the sunshine, and there's the possibility.
I mean, if you're in Dubai, you need that. You need a bright screen. If you're outside for more than 5 minutes, which you probably won't be because it's too hot.
Wait, you went to Dubai as well recently.
I've been there a couple of times now.
In the sun, like in the middle of the summer.
Well, I was there in May, so does that count as summer?
That's still an Arabian
spring,
summer,
right? Yeah.
No, it's Arabian summer. It's end of April until
anyway, it was hot AF. That's all I have to say. Not as hot as when we were in Korea for Samsung, because that's humid hot, and I'd rather have dry desert hot anytime, as long as I stay hydrated. In the shade, it's not bad. You're in the shade, you're fine, honestly.
No, that's fair.
That's fair. At least in May. I don't know about August or July. It'd be interesting.
So that's where you go if you like living, but also want to maybe possibly save on cremation. Just go stand in this Dubai summer for a couple of things. And for context, I live there, so I know the weather.
I know you did. I think thanks for clarifying.
It's more for the audience.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate that.
If you ever want to know, I'll give you the 60-second is I walked 200 meters in Dubai summer in a suit between my office and the gas station.
Ouch.
My suit was drenched. 5 minutes in the gas station, it dried off.
Yes. Because the air conditioning is like a freezer.
The most powerful in the world. I walked back. I drenched it again. So, yeah, it's perfect.
But now it fits you perfectly.
Well, that was the old suit.
I mean, that was given to start with, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Anyway, so that's the GT6, folks. Now, I said there's multiple models, so let's talk about that because it's interesting. There's a GT6 in China that looks very much identical, but has a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 in it. Right? And then there's a GT6T, I think. Like with a letter, I can't remember if it's T. Double check for me, folks. And that one said a Snapdragon 7 Gen 3. Or 7 Plus Gen 3. Can't remember which. So there's definitely variants in different countries and different models. But this is the global model. If you go anywhere in a global market, which is the Middle East, India, Europe, this is the one you're going to get. And I think it's a really solid proposition. Like
I think priced amazingly, and it's the phone they need
exactly
for many people.
I'm honestly, I want the Pro, and it's coming. It'll probably be one of the first 8 Gen 4 phones based on last year, the 8 Gen 3 being in the GT5 Pro and was I believe it was the second phone announced with a Gen 3 last year. Like it was announced in late November, early December, or even mid-November. And I got mine I got mine mid-December. I remember that. I was like, wow, first time I've gotten the latest Qualcomm chip before the new year as a reviewer, right? And the other thing is, even though they're not charging at 240 watt, which is a bit of a bummer, because it was kind of the thing that kind of set it apart, really. It does have a battery system that supports 1600 charge cycles, which, not every phone has. And so longevity is a thing. I don't know. I know my audience, your listeners are not the people who are going to keep your phone for that long. But, for those people who are, I think this is a big deal,
Well, in India, you can see where this is marketed. In places like India, like not so much the Middle East, in developing countries where this thing will fly off the shelf, especially as your Pixel 8As of the world are not widely available. Yeah. You want that longevity because people, whereas we think nothing of changing a phone every half a minute because, well, we're the benefit of who we are. And even in most developed countries, people will change every year and a half, 2 years. In those developing countries, for most customers that this is targeting, you're talking 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I just looked it up here while the fire engine went by, which you guys won't hear because I'll edit it out. But Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 3. And the other difference is there's less cameras. Oh, that's the other thing. The Chinese model, not the T, it was T, by the way. The GT6T is the one with the Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 3, the detuned version. But the other one, the Chinese model, has one less camera. It doesn't have the telephoto.
Which is strange.
Which basically has the same camera system as the GT6T, which has, just two, interestingly for BBK group, just two lenses. The 50 megapixel main and the 8 megapixel ultra wide. I think it's the first time I haven't seen them compelled to put a sticker cam in something. Huh. How bizarre. Same
Maybe
display,
they've been
though.
Listening.
Same display, same everything else, pretty much.
And then
wait, charging. I'm looking at charging. Is it different for that? Oh, nope. Exactly the same. So there you go. That's the GT6 in a nutshell with all its variants.
I'm not going to lie. I'm looking here at the one in China as well. Man, that purple looks so spectacular.
The colors, yeah. Like here, I got that silver one. There's like a greenish one that is more like think OnePlus 12R, and then or 12 rather, and then but without the marble finish, and that's it. We don't get the purple. The purple's good, huh?
No, that purple.
You want the purple, right? Yeah.
I want that purple phone.
All right.
Mostly to give it to my niece, who will go purple.
Sure. I love purple. I'll take a purple phone anytime. Let's move on to the next item, which is well, we've got new phones from Oppo. Well, they're not new. Again, they've been out in China. Same with the Realme GT6. So you say you have this one? You said
I have the Reno series? 12 Pro. Okay. I published it I tweeted about it with a picture and I put it on Instagram. When was the embargo for it? 3 days ago?
Something like that. It's definitely this week's news.
I'm going to be honest.
What?
This is the most spectacular looking phone ever.
Okay, before you continue, I have a fraught relationship with the Reno phones. And I want to know. No, don't worry. I'm positive overall. But it's fraud. Is this plastic, glass, metal? What is it? What is it made of? That you can tell.
I can't remember.
Well, let's look it up.
I'm literally looking at the announcement for it now.
Is that what you're doing to
figure out? Wait, what kind of build is this? Let's go find
I got it here. Okay. It is why do I need to get an ad to block me from seeing what I want to see? Okay, here we go. So this is a plastic back, plastic frame. Wah, wah, wah. This is my problem with the Reno.
Hey. Okay. Let me explain.
Let me explain my fraught relationship with Reno before you defend it, because I don't think it's a bad phone. The Renos are always solid phones. I always enjoy them. I've given up on them because they make too many of them. There's one every 6 months and I can't keep up and I don't have time to play with them. It's kind of like the Vivo V series. You remember? Like the Vivo V series, it's like they ping me and they say, I have a new Vivo V. And then I look at the numbers and I'm like, wait, how many did I miss? And wait, it's like
isn't that the one that was last year? Yeah. And they're like, no. That was the Vivo something.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So the Reno 12 literally like is, there was an 11 like 6 months ago. Look, the point I'm making is in the early days of Reno, as you know, that the shark fin selfie camera that popped out, that was super cool. And it had metal frame. Remember, it had the Reno 10X with the 10X periscope telephoto, the first periscope telephoto on any phone. Like we're talking, it was before the Find series made a splash. Oppo at the time was kind of dabbing in flagships, but not really there yet. And the Reno was showing us what they could do. And it, like in spec wise, it was always premium mid range, right? But like then they did the Find, and then they really had a flagship. But then the Reno went downhill. Like around the time like Reno 3 and 4 came out, plastic everywhere. And we're talking the cheapest feeling plastic, like, that chrome coated plastic fake metal frame. It drove me nuts because I was like, you took a brand that signified, refinement, that if you wanted, like in the early days of Reno, if somebody had asked me, tell me what the nicest build mid-range phone is, and I would say Reno all day. Like it felt like a flagship, metal, glass, just the specs were just down a little bit. It didn't have the best processor. Well, sometimes it has some good elements like the 10X periscope. But the point is, once the Reno numbers, even Reno 2, metal, glass, and then Reno 3, 4, 5, it just went downhill. And then they went back to glass and metal, like a Reno, I think a 7, 8 around that time. They were gorgeous. They were amazing. They had the ones with the light around the camera pod that now Vivo does. But they make so many variants so often, and now it's back to plastic crap. And I'm like, I don't understand Oppo. There is no continuity. Like with the Find series, at least it makes sense. Like it's the flagship, it's always the best, no compromise. Then they have the Find N, it's the folding phones, no compromise. There's a lineage, there's a logic there. The Reno, as much as I want to love it, give us a reason to explain yourself with your marketing on what is the Reno. Because also the plasticky Renos, the ones I don't like as much because they don't feel as nice. And I'm not saying this plastic could, like this Realme has nice plastic frame. It doesn't try to be metal. It looks normal. It's fine. I'm just saying that the prices are always super high on the Renos too. So they demand a premium for a phone that just doesn't deliver. And that's why I'm bummed that you're saying it's plastic.
Okay.
My rant is over.
Your rant is over.
I want to love the Renos. I really do.
This is all I can say is earlier when I said the GT6 I think was up for pre-order in the UK. No, actually, my brain is so conflated. That's the Reno 12 Pro 5G. Okay. That's in the UK.
That makes more sense. Funny because Realme isn't as big in the UK, right?
No. It's definitely the Oppo, and it's Oppo's big return to the UK, the big return, and to Europe and all of that. But let me say, this thing is spectacular. Like, I don't mind the finish or whatever. It has the nicest color. The
Renos are always beautiful phones in terms of like what they deliver for performance and specs, right? Like
it is the most beautiful phone I've ever used. Right. The only way I can explain it is, and it is on my social, when you shimmer, when you twirl it in the light, it is just the most, I'm trying not to use words that would come across in a press release because I haven't read the press release for it. Sorry, Oppo.
It's okay. You do that naturally, Nirave. It's fine.
Well, what can I say, darling? There's just a shimmer to it. It's spectacular. I've got the silver one, except when you look at the Reno 12 page on Oppo Store in the UK or anywhere else, you see this purpley color at the top. It's just the color scheme is phenomenal. And I'll bring it to our thing this weekend, and you're going to be like, oh, yeah. I see. I love it. I love the color. Haven't even used the rest of the phone. I'm going to at some point. We've got a lot coming down. Spec wise, it's lovely. It's MediaTek, etc. But I just fell in love with the color scheme on it.
Oh, and that's fine. Like I do believe that aesthetically, they've always been with Renos. They've always kind of pushed the envelope. The problem is that when they use materials that, it's like, you see the fake marble finish on the OnePlus 12. I personally don't like it, but at least it's glass and it feels really luxurious. It doesn't just look interesting and fancy. And that's my problem with the Reno. It's like you're looking at this thing and then you're like, oh, that's just plastic. What? Why?
It is £500 and 400 with their promos. Yeah, but we're looking at the same like
price as the Realme. I'd get the Realme, especially when you look at the specs. Okay, look at the specs.
But the irony of it is that they're both the same company in the long run.
That's what I'm saying. Anyway. That's what I'm saying when I say the Renos are always overpriced. This should be a 400, 300 quid, 350 quid phone. Okay? Let's be real.
With their promo, it is a 400. With the trading promo, it will go down to even lower. But yeah.
Let's look at the specs, right? So 1080p display instead of like the 12, whatever it was. 1080p OLED, 1200 nits peak. So this is going to be much less bright, like visibly. MediaTek Dimensity 7300, brand new chip, great chip, but nothing compared to a Snapdragon 8S Gen 3. Let's be real. It does have micro SD expansion, which is kind of unusual nowadays. Camera system is almost identical to the Realme GT6 here with a 50 megapixel 2x telephoto and a main camera with OIS, 50 megapixel as well. And the selfie camera is 50 megapixel, which is a big upgrade over the Realme. So that could be something. It has autofocus on the front camera, which is also a thing. Oppo is well known for making good selfie cams traditionally.
And this is meant to have the AI. This is the one that's all the AI smart. So these little tweaks don't surprise me yet.
It's everyone now, because we didn't talk about it with the Realme, but Realme AI is a thing that they push really hard alongside the GT6. So Reno's pushing their own AI. I mean, Oppo is. But like charging, so 5,000 milliamp hour, 80 watt wired. Like I'm not saying it's a bad phone, but like you can't argue that the GT6 is a better phone.
No, I think on paper it's definitely a better phone. I think depends on where it ends up being priced.
Well, in the real world, yeah. But I'm just saying, if you look at the retail price right now,
there's similarities, but they're ultimately the GT6 nails it on paper. But I got to be honest, that I've had several Renos. I've never daily driven one.
Yeah.
Other than the odd review and stuff. Same. This thing looks so spectacular that I would actually daily drive it. And I can't, I don't think, I did not expect to say that when they sent it.
That purple one is very hot.
So it's not purple, it's the silver. And then it's the Nebula Silver is their official name for it. And in the light, it becomes purple.
Ah. Yeah,
and that's what blows my mind.
Is, I remember those cheap Renos I didn't like, cheap in the sense that they're plastic back, like the 3 and 4 had spectacular finishes as well. Like this is a total Reno thing. Like this is.
I mean, it's also a BBK thing. They know they've taken over the mantle of
the Vivo
the
V
Open.
series.
They've taken over the mantle of the Nokias of the world.
Yeah, the OnePlus 12 with its marble back.
Oh my
Insanity.
God, that was so nice. Where is mine? Oh, I know where it is. It's in the storage unit. Now I've got a storage unit off the camera there with just like the most massive amount of phones in it.
Let's jump into some rumors and leaks and teasers because, we love ourselves. You're a Samsung guy. We just debated this in a group chat with some friends where I was like, screw the Fold 6. It's a terrible phone. I would prefer a Pixel Fold over it. And I know
for those people who weren't in that chat, that is blasphemy.
Yes, I know.
I will not
sorry.
have these words.
I stand by this because I actually, after I had that discussion, I pulled out my Pixel Fold and used it for the day, and I was like, it's great. It's great except for the chip and the fact that it's not made very well. But in terms of my user experience, it's a better experience than the Fold for me. So you're Samsung, and I'm a I'm a camera person. So Galaxy S25 Ultra camera specs are out there, rumored at least. And what's very interesting here, I just reviewed the Oppo Find X7 Ultra for Geekspin. It's out there. You should read my review. And it's got 450 megapixel cameras. And you know how my darling, my absolute favorite phone of 2024 so far, the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, is also 450 megapixel cameras. Well, I think finally Samsung enters the chat, because the rumors are it keeps the 200 megapixel main, but then all three cameras are 50 megapixels. The ultra wide's going to 50, the 3x telephoto is going to 50, and of course we know the 5x telephoto is already at 50, right?
Yeah.
Wow, what do you think of that? Because I'm excited about that. This could be really good.
Look, I love my S24 Ultra. I have a post coming out early, probably at some point in the next week or so, about why it's the only phone I take to weddings. There's a real reason for that, and it's all down to the way they do portrait mode and stuff like that. Love it. These changes are going to be great. It's not about the megapixels, though. I really want to see them take a page out of the book and go for the bigger sensor sizes.
I'd like to agree with you that in absolute principle, it's not about the megapixels, but we do not live in that universe anymore. I think that myth needs to go away. It was valid back in the early days, but today, in a phone, you need the ability to pixel bin. You need the ability to center crop zoom losslessly at the sensor level. And that is not allowed if you don't have a sensor that exceeds 48 megapixels. So
I agree. 50 megapixel is necessary for it's table stakes. That's
exactly.
The thing.
Like, there was a time when it didn't make a difference. There was a time when it didn't make a difference. But I think today, it makes a difference.
With the way
it
tech
allows
has changed,
more options. Yeah.
But what I really, really, really want them to do is go for the 1-inch sensor. Go all out. If you're going to make an Ultra, show us everything that's possible inside Samsung camera.
If you think about it, that 200 megapixel sensor is pretty damn massive. It's not 1 inch, but it's really big. And by the pixel binning, you can get close to the size of the pixels of a 50 megapixel 1-inch sensor. So I'm not too vexed about that. Also, Samsung, how can you go back to less than 200 on your flagship when you've been at 200 for how many years now? And you were at 108 before that for how many years? This is Korea. Put yourself in the Korean mindset, right?
It's a marketing
remember
nightmare to do
LG and
that.
marketing, and Samsung's not far behind, right? I cannot fault them for that. I cannot.
I think the 25 is going to be a fantastic camera. They've already, they were talking about, we're going to new algorithms to improve the quality of photos and videos. Fine. There's been complaints of people who go the S24 Ultra isn't great, and I'm like, I don't know what people are talking about. It's not perfect, but it's still my favorite phone to shoot with.
Look, this is a very subjective thing. It's like me and my hatred of plastic frames, right? Like, I actually don't mind plastic backs. I'm totally fine with that.
Charging.
It's and OIS back in the day when it wasn't table stakes.
Sorry, I just had to say it.
No, dude, it's so true. I didn't get upset about the GT6 and the Reno 12 Pro not having wireless charging because that's normal for these phones. The BBK Group at that price point doesn't do it. It's like the 12R doesn't have it, but the 12 does. And the rumors are very strong. We talked about this a few weeks back with one of my guests, that BBK Group next year is going to go to 6,000 milliamp hours on all the flagships that are Snapdragon 8 Gen 4, because that Orion core coming up is thirsty. And they're not going to put wireless charging to keep the phones thin. We know it's coming. I'm going to lose my freaking mind. I'll have you on the podcast. You'll be petting my head and saying, it's okay, Miriam. But it's going to happen. Like, that I'm,
I can't wait.
It's true, right? Like, the rant will be epic. You guys should tune in 6 months from now.
I only pay attention to this whole industry at this point just for the curious tales of Miriam and wireless charging. You know what, Miriam? This is like the tech equivalent of the Adventures of Tintin. This is something I watched the other day, but I'm like,
oh my God,
Adventures
so
of Miriam and wireless charging.
Exactly. So my point is, like I think it's really personal, this camera thing. Like for me, I have an S24 Ultra. I use it for all my car photography because I got a boatload of storage on that phone. The versatility of these cameras for if I want to climb on a rock and have the car in a little parking lot like down below, I get that super nice 10x shot. Like I get all that. And until the Xiaomi 14 Ultra and the Oppo has some compromises because it's China market phone and I can't really use it as my daily because of it. That's all my review. But they would be good candidates too, those two phones. But the Samsung, because it's supported by all the carriers and everything just works, is my pick for the car photos. But I do not like the color science. I do not like the processing that Samsung does. Doesn't mean that the pictures I take are bad. Like, obviously, I use them. I do my car photos with it. I love that the ultra wide is really wide. I love a lot of things about it. But for me, it's like I do not like iPhone photos. I really do not like iPhone photos. Like I see an iPhone photo and I like, whoa, no. And I used to. I think something changed when they went to the 48 megapixel or whatever it was, but they just don't look as like even my spouse Theo was a pure iPhone user and was like has gone through all these generations when they got their iPhone SE2 that they're on now. No, SE3, the 5G SE. And they're, like you're talking the dumbest camera. Like it's the same module that was in the 8, right? They're like, why did my photos look like crap? And I'm like, image processing, their algorithms change. The sensor is the same crappy, simple sensor that was there 4 years ago. And you liked it much better when you had an 8 and now you don't. And I'm like, this is the prime example. And some people disagree. Some people are going to say, oh my God, the iPhone's so much better now.
Well, okay, so let's go back to. I agree
I'm talking
with
image processing.
About the iPhone, yeah.
And then of
image
course,
processing
Google,
on the Samsung for a second. Yeah,
like I love the Pixel. Some people hate the Pixel's processing. I like the contrasty, HDR.
Fantastic processing. But personally, I love without going down the rabbit hole, the reality is most people don't think of it about the color science. They don't think of it by what is more technically accurate or anything. You do the blind camera science, and what it comes down to, what is the most visually appealing.
But you saw what the blind camera test, the most reliable because of his audience size blind camera test we have right now is Marquez. And every year Pixel wins. Every freaking year.
No, and I don't disagree with that.
The irony is it's always the Pixel A that wins. It doesn't have the best sensors. It doesn't have a telephoto. So this to me proves it's all about image processing. The perception of the images. And I'm not saying, again, if I only had to have a Samsung all day long, no matter which one, even like an A54, I think it would be perfectly fine. We're at the point now where Samsung nails it, Apple nails it. I'm talking preferences here. Like I'm talking microscopic variations in image quality.
So when it comes, preference-wise, for me, Samsung all day. And I'll tell you the simple reason. And it's interesting because this all boils down to those minute differences in how they decide to pick. Is their color science more natural, more vivid, more warm? Everyone's got those balances.
Yeah.
For me, regardless of the phone or display you're using, I love Samsung color science because when you hit those if for people, stuff like that, meh. But when you're hitting anything with color,
that's why I do it for the cars. Yeah.
Yeah. It just looks like someone took a photo for anyone else and just went, you know what we're going to do? We're going to amp the colors to 50x. And it just looks spectacular.
Yeah.
On my Google Home, on my Nest Hub Max, for example, or the Pixel
Those
tablet.
Names.
Yeah. In my kitchen at home, I have wedding photos, it's just part of my Google Photos library. One of my cousin's wedding, I shot exclusively on the S20. This was back in 2019. So it would have been, what would it have been? It would have probably been 20 Ultra, 21 Ultra.
No, this would be 20 is 20. Oh, no, 20 Ultra was 2020.
The Note 20 Ultra was 2020.
No, Note 20 Ultra was 2019 August.
Okay, so let me just see what. Yeah, so I think it would have been. Let me just see when it might have been.
See, this is what happens when your phone reviewers. While
yeah, okay, I think it was Note 20 Ultra. So we're not talking. Hey, we're not talking 200 megapixel camera, any of that. Yeah, the images just captured by the color science. The fact that it was. Let me paint this picture. Indian wedding, stunningly vibrant clothing,
color detail,
coupled with British sunshine, perfect sunshine, and bright blue skies. And then you have a phone that just amps colors to 5 million X. You end up with the most spectacular photos, whereby the official photographer's photos were not as popular as the stuff I took straight out of the Note 20 Ultra and uploaded to the group thing. That's something that, because it's not about which is more accurate, it's about what makes more visually appealing to people.
Look, I actually liked the photos coming out of the Note 20 Ultra more than the photos coming out of the S24 Ultra. Their color science has also evolved. Like, I think that everybody's trying to kind of like, there's probably focus groups and they're trying to figure out what people want. And look, this is fine. Everybody's allowed to say, I like the iPhone photos, or I like the Find X7 Ultra photos, like whatever. I get it. For me, for example, I don't like the color science of my Xiaomi 14 Ultra as much as the color science of my Pixel, because but I understand where they're coming from. They're being Leica. They're like, we want it to feel like a Leica camera. And Oppo wants it to feel like a Hasselblad camera or OnePlus. And you feel that in the photos. However, I'm so used to Pixel that I need that dynamic range to be a little more flat, in the sense that I don't want to see too much highlight. I want to see a bit of shadow. And, if I take, if you think the Pixel is contrasty by default, like, the Xiaomi is contrasty by default. Like, it looks like a real camera.
It looks like someone just went, ooh, what happens when I take contrast and make it plus 700 in Lightroom?
And but it's easy to fix in post if you don't want it. And if you do want it, if you want to keep that vibe, you can capture that vibe. So I think I'm excited about this camera system, but I'm also excited about the stuff that's coming with Moto, because we're an ad leaked of the Razr 2024, and there sounds like there's a lot of AI stuff associated with the Moto Razr. It looks like, just like everybody's throwing AI around. Like the GT6 had a whole Realme AI thing, the Reno has Oppo AI, and this is all looks like. So we don't know anything yet. This is an ad that leaked. We know this Razr is coming. It's, it was around this time last year. The rumors are right now June 25 launch,
which is 4 days from
very
now.
soon. Yeah.
I mean, Moto did come out and literally say, we're flipping the script on June 25. So I think we can all expect that.
I didn't know if that was actually, because with this is definitely a leaked ad.
That's the thing they did on Twitter like a week ago.
Oh, well, there you go. See, this is how much I pay attention. But look, the thing is, there's some interesting little details, tidbits in there. There's rumors that it's going to lose the ultra wide and gain a telephoto.
So I really don't mind that, as long, and I'm a massive proponent for that. Hey, get rid of the ultra wide,
for
give
portraits.
us telephoto, but, and this is a huge but, make the wide sensor, the main camera,
wider, yeah,
a little wider.
You then
cover everything. Don't go ultra wide, because it's going to be, frankly, quite garbage. But go wider and give everyone the scope. Because my favorite thing about the thing I love about the original Razr last year, which I will say, the Razr Plus last year, which I will say is my favorite flip of 2023.
Agreed. Although the Oppo comes close for me.
Yeah, I really like the Oppo. I just didn't quite clock I never got used to the portrait vertical front display.
Yeah, it's a bit odd. But the cameras did it for me. I was willing to sacrifice the display.
The cameras are
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah,
Oh, that
absolutely.
reminds me, I've got to charge that up and take it with me. Thank you for the reminders of waffle and
You're welcome.
But I absolutely love that. And I did so many weddings where I'm like, hey, like this with the ultra wide, etc. And it's like perfect. There's so many photos of me with half my arm in it. But, you know, that's someone else's problem because I don't mind looking at my arm.
You're famous for this, Nirave. It's your thing.
Yeah.
Come on.
So as long as it's wide enough, it's not too wide where it looks like where you're looking down the pores of my arm, but it's wide enough that you can still take those incredible shots. And then please, 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 Moto, give me the magenta all over again.
Yes. So a couple of things. Also, rumor of a 4-inch front display, slightly bigger from 3.6. We'll see. But
agree with that.
Theo has two phones. They have the iPhone. They're primarily an iPhone user, but they also have a second phone for Canada, which is the Moto Razr 2023, the Plus. And they like it better than their Flip 3 that they had before from Samsung. But they are also like, I don't see the point of the front display being so big because the apps are not optimized for it. And they're right, like, because, they're not going to go through the effort that we're going to go through to make the font size fit and all that. And so for them, they're like, oh, I was so excited to have this front display. I ran Google Maps because it's available. And then I was like, I couldn't see and read anything and everything was off the screen. And I'm like, why? And so, it's interesting to see a normal phone user like analysis on last year's model. And also here's an interesting thing. I think technically, Speaking of Razr Plus 23, last year's model, I think technically speaking, the Flip 3, 4, and 5 from Samsung have a better camera in the sense of Samsung has better image processing, right? We all agree that's fair, right?
Listen, you could take $100
Samsung phone and it will beat Moto. Here's a normal person's assessment. They like the camera on the Razr better.
Wow.
Yep. Granted, they said, yes, it doesn't capture motion as well. That's the big problem with the Moto. But they're like, other than that, they like the results. They like the results better. And I was like, wow.
I've got to be honest, man. This is I'm excited about everything because we know that the next 6 months are going to be the most spectacularly
we
crazy
say that every
busy.
6 years, though. I mean, it's
we say that every 6 months, not every 6 years. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. 6 months.
This is going to be a very insane year ahead, or the rest of the year. But the Moto is just like, I went back to the Razr, and even though the Flip 4 or 5, what number are we on this year?
5.
Last year was 5. Yeah, okay, got it.
Tell me, we're having that kind of day today.
Flip 3 and 4.
I know. I'm sorry.
Look, even though the Flip 5 is objectively a better phone overall,
I agree.
I can't help but love the Moto
I agree.
It's, for once, it's the phone that captures everything. Captures everything the original Razr did, and you know what it is?
Owns the mind share.
Quirk. Yeah,
Moto owns the mind share in the same way as OnePlus or Oppo own the mind share on the folding phone. We're talking about Pixel Fold earlier versus. I would still pick an open
all day long.
Open all day long, right?
No contest.
But the fact that Samsung cannot get the mind share of the, sorry, I don't like to use that word, but it's kind of appropriate here, tech elite, us, you listeners, you guys are the people who know better about what you want. I'm guaranteeing you very few of you would pick the Samsung folding phones over the Moto or the Open if you used them enough.
Been in a car with Uber drivers and stuff, seen they're using a Fold 4 and gone, have you seen the Open? And I swear to God, at least 3 different people at the end of a not very long journey, when I've outside various apartments of mine or houses or whatever, they have literally been like, cool, give me 5 minutes. Like, I'll take 5 minutes, I'll demo Open Canvas, and at least 3 different people have bought one right there and right there, traded their phone in.
100%. Absolutely.
Samsung's biggest asset right now is its marketing. But going back to Moto for 1 second, the Razr Plus last year captured right down to the stack bounce competition in our group chat with all the other creators, yeah?
I know.
It captured the quirkiness that is Motorola. quirky,
and
different, weird.
And not just the Razr. The Edge series was solid last year. I've got the new Edge this year, and it's pretty good. They've definitely. Oh, here's another thing: the Moto G Stylus 24, the 5G model. I just got that as well, and wow, like it's solid for like. You remember how it seemed always a little overpriced for a mid-range phone because they were kind of leaning on the stylus a little too much as a feature. They're still leaning on the stylus, but now the phone actually delivers on specs. It's solid. It's like the first G in a while where I was like, oh, you don't suck and you're a Moto G, you know? Like,
wait, like, could this be the return of Motorola?
Well,
to be fair, they've definitely figured their stuff out compared to where the Razr and where their phones used to be. And I've got no qualms recommending a Razr or a Moto phone to pretty much most people.
We've been very vocal and they've listened. That's basically what you have, and us media, right? Like, because Moto is like, it's just like Nokia and HTC. These are brands they mean something.
I mean, let's talk about HTC for a second. There's a whole thing there.
I mean, we could do a podcast about that. Like,
but no, I just want to say, if there was ever a social signal that HTC just needs to pull their finger out, someone needs to go and knock what's her name on the head, it was when they tweeted going, "Get ready," and an image, like a video of virtually nothing with a date, and collectively the internet sphere went absolutely bonkers for a mid-range HTC phone.
I know, exactly. So, it's over. But here's the thing. The reason we're excited is Moto is not over. HTC's over. LG's over. Nokia's over. I mean, I've got an HMD branded phone that just arrived. Doesn't even say Nokia on it anymore. Anyway, let's move on because I got a few more little things I want to talk about. Nothing CMF Phone 1, along with a watch and earbuds, it turns out, are coming July 8th. There was a teaser, and I'm super stoked about this. I'm going to reach out to Jane and say, you got to hook me up. I know this is not for our market, but this dial, like a volume, whatever it is, the little screw hole to attach accessories, the color,
it's unique, it's different.
I love it. I want more. Give me more. This is like, people don't understand why I get excited of phones. This is going to be cheaper than the Nothing Phone 2A, obviously. It's only about the 250 US instead of 350. But look at the rumored specs, Dimensity 72 or 7300, like OLED display at 120 hertz. Like, I don't even care if it's got a
$250 phone. This is blowing everything out.
I don't even care if it has a potato camera at this point. Like, it's like at that price with that design, you nailed it. It's awesome. So there's that. And so I don't know. Are you excited about these? This might be the first CMF product. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, no. So I'm really excited. I'm really interested to see. I think the devil's in the details. But absolutely, I'm like, hey, let's crack this.
Nothing's going to nail the details. You know that. Like, we're not talking about BBK Group here. We're not talking about Pete Lau and Carl Pei duking it out to, get 2 wins here, and then we end up with crappy plastic Renos. Now, we're going to talk Nord here, original Nord. This is going to be like that at a price point that's going to...
X all over again.
This is exactly right. Oh, man, you really brought that back, didn't you?
Oh, I had to. Sorry, wow. I'm like, listen, I have a OnePlus X at home. Course.
It's a classic.
And it is still one of the best phones ever made. Like, I love that thing.
For the money, it was pretty incredible. All right. X-Real Beam Pro. We talked about this recently. So it's official, now available global. It was China only. There's a quick reminder. This is a $200 kind of budgety, lower mid-range type smartphone that is designed to work with the X-Real glasses. Specifically, it's designed to kind of be an intermediary between your smartphone and the X-Real because it's got a big battery pack in there, and you have 2 USB-C ports. You can plug the glasses into one, and maybe your power bank or your smartphone into the other. But unlike previous, X-Real products, you can actually, it runs Android. It doesn't have 5G, but it has Wi-Fi and it runs Android. And you can actually maybe don't waste the battery of your main phone watching Netflix on your glasses, because it's not a very high spec phone, because it doesn't need to be, because it's really just for visualizing stuff. But here's the cool part. It has 2 cameras in the back to do stereo, like, 3D photos and video recording. And the specs on those don't suck. And I think it's going to be really interesting. It's kind of like the Evo 3Ds come back as a budget mid-ranger that connects to a pair of 3D glasses. Awesome.
I think it's different, it's unique, and I can't wait to try it out.
Exactly, especially with that price. Now,
listen to this. We could buy, mental maths time, 17 and a half of these for the price of a Vision Pro.
Vision Pro. And here's the cool thing. So it's got micro SD expansion, 27-watt charging. It has an LCD display. Like, don't get too excited here. Lots of chins and bezels, obviously, because it's a cheaper display. But it's 1080p at least. And, it does run the Play Store and everything. And I'm not quite sure what the chip is on that. But, it's $200. 8256 for $200. Like, you can't go wrong.
6128 Wi-Fi for.
Oh, okay, that's the cheap
200,
one.
and then
that's not too bad, right? So
yeah, I mean, it's the original X Beam was what, 110. This is
but that was
nowhere near as good.
That did not have a display, right?
So, no, it was nonsense.
So spec wise, it's Snapdragon 6 Gen 1, which is I
mean. Listen, let's just be honest. This is
on
Reddit.
Think of it
it's on Reddit. It's by Google standards, it's the most out
It's a Netflix machine. It only has 3 jobs. Big battery to power the glasses, be able to play back video and content to the glasses natively, so you don't have to use your smartphone. You can still use your smartphone if you want. So if you have like a video game you want to play, no problem, because that chip's not going to play games that great. And then the third job it has is to take photos with that stereo camera system. I think it's really cool. And
do you know what I just realized?
What?
Random, tangent. Why haven't more companies done this? Because the parts that are in this are not special. And that all these big guys have plenty of these parts in bins that they could easily whip together a $200 thing for. And here's the thing, you don't even need glasses. Sell this as a kid's device and it would be perfect.
Look, it's because it's X-Real. They are looking at it from a different angle. These other guys are just looking at another smartphone. They're not thinking of putting 2 USB-C ports on their phones, unless it's a gaming phone like the Asus ROG that had like 2 ports at one point. But look, I think this is cool. I'm getting a hands-on very soon with it, and I think I've requested reviewing it. Let's see if I get it. Moving on, we have another couple of things I want to chat with you at least. Microsoft Copilot PCs are out. Finally, June 18th was the big official. You can buy them in stores kind of thing. I've got a Yoga Snapdragon X Elite Copilot PC coming today sometime. So this is going to be my first one. I'm really excited. You are too, right? That's kind of why I want to just spend 5 minutes. Like, I'll link to an Engadget story that has a list of all the laptops so you can compare them if you want. But I'm stoked about this because I'm a big Windows on ARM. I'm a big ARM person. I think that PC should all be using ARM chips. That's me. And it's not because of the Mac, because I knew that before the MacBook Air M1 came out. I've always been a proponent of ARM for PCs because it's more efficient, fanless if you want it to be, etc. Thoughts?
It's the first time I have been excited by
a Windows machine
in a decade. I have a Yoga coming. I have requested just about everything else under the sun.
Same with me.
I can't bloody wait. This is going to be fabulous.
I know. It's incredible. So,
however, let's just say one thing. I have something coming out, which is, and the thing is, did Microsoft just hand over the entire AI race to Apple? Absolutely, because only Microsoft's hubris specifically can take all the goodwill built up, all of the amazing coverage, everything around Copilot Plus, recall and all of that, and turn it into an absolute nothingness. And that is purely down to the difference is completely stark. one hand, Apple goes coming later this year and not saying what, and going and beyond. And on the other hand, Microsoft goes, hey, it will be ready in 14 seconds for you. And 13 seconds later goes, oh, whoops, we didn't quite think that you guys would have that much backlash. It's indefinitely postponed. In Microsoft land, it's got as much chance of succeeding as Windows Phone, people.
I would like to, look, you're right. I mean, you're talking about recall mostly, and that was
recall, but
who did not like raise their hand in the meeting and say, excuse me.
I can't say what I know, but from what I'm aware of, and from things I've been told by others who have more deeper knowledge, I need to hedge this. I don't think it's about someone raising and not raising their hand as much as Microsoft possibly going, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I totally get that. But here's the thing. I do think that the big difference between this and Windows Phone and the other stuff that Microsoft has flubbed before is that they're not going to flub it because they got all the manufacturers to make Snapdragon X PCs. That's a huge deal. Like, think about the importance and influence that Intel has on Microsoft. I think because Microsoft is finally, even though recall, all that, forget the AI stuff, forget Copilot, forget all that. Let's talk about the fact that Microsoft, for the first time ever, is finally on board on ARM. It's full on going with ARM. It's deciding that ARM is an equal footing to Intel, or in some ways better because it's Copilot Plus. Forget the recall. All the other AI features are really interesting, and they're only coming to Copilot Plus. And right now, that means they're only coming to Qualcomm, right? So,
I know. So they've the whole ecosystem has crushed it. Like, Microsoft's crushed everything. The problem they have is Copilot Plus is all about AI. It is all about the impact of using AI, and that's I'm talking about outside of our ecosystem and much more with average people in the world.
Right.
The problem they have is the amount of bad coverage they've just had about recall means that people are inherently...
But that's us. Like, the average person has no idea there's even an ARM Windows PC coming that they can buy at Best Buy.
Disagree, because...
And when they do, listen to me, when they do, they will get the best battery life, the best experience they've ever had on a PC running Windows, ever. It'll be the MacBook Air M1 moment for Windows. And it doesn't matter how much AI features there are. It'll be magical. And that will start a new trend. I hear what you're saying.
I don't think you're wrong, but what I am going to say is I was actually following some of the coverage on mainstream television. We're not talking tech here. We're talking coverage on your national channels, both in the US and the UK. And I can damn well promise you that the average consumer, because my mother came to me and talked to me about, what are these new ones? And I heard something about AI. Like, there is a fundamental issue that you face. No, but there's a fundamental issue when you get coverage that starts to run on, and Microsoft did X, and Microsoft's new AI recall feature has been blasted and has been indefinitely postponed for X, Y, and Z reason. It's nothing to do with, look, we know this is going to be the most spectacular Windows. This is the biggest change
why I'm so excited.
Development in Windows. I'm excited because I'm like, hey, we finally got the M series for Windows. And I think we finally have something that's valuable. And I've wrote probably 700 tweets this week going, I can't bloody wait. It's going to be amazing. But the problem is...
You and I talked about it.
Microsoft, I think, Microsoft let its partners down. I don't say this in a bad way. I think everything's been amazing. They got all the partners on board. Qualcomm stole the Windows ecosystem, even though Intel and ARM are bringing their own. We all know first mover advantage. We look back to the history of Microsoft and Intel. First mover advantage is what matters. The problem I have is I think Microsoft ultimately, trying to be delicate here, kind of let the ecosystem down, because if they had any inkling that recall was going to be that frigging poorly received and customers were going to go that apeshit, you can beep that one word, it's fine, you can beep it, let people use their imagination. If they did that, this is the first time that Windows has been sexy in a very long time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what they did was their hubris could have directly made, like, has inevitably dented confidence.
No, I completely agree with you.
They fail their partners.
No,
and it's
a
shame because everything looks incredible.
Yeah, that's why I'm disappointed. But look, this is actually a good segue. It's a good segue onto the Vision Pro stuff because Apple nailed the messaging by calling it Apple Intelligence. They managed to pull themselves away from the AI craze and the negative connotation. Beyond recall, I'm talking in general. The general vibe out there, I agree with you that the general vibe for the general public is that AI bad. There's no way AI good for the general public right now in their visions, in their minds, right?
I'm waiting. I'm willing to put money on. I won't say exact timing. There will be an ad. The more Microsoft flubs this and others mess up, the more ammunition there is for Apple to run a simple ad that just goes, that's AI. It's not Apple Intelligence. That's it.
Yeah.
One 100%. Ad will own the space for them.
So, the interesting thing here, like, obviously Apple Intelligence is really smart marketing. We know that Apple is really good at marketing. But my question to you is, there's these strong rumors that they're going for a Vision Affordable versus a Vision Pro 2.0. Now, this makes perfect sense to me. The headlines have been spinning this in weird ways saying, Apple's not making a version 2. Well, they're not making right now a version 2 of the Pro because they're realizing that they need to go to a lower price point and maybe they don't need that external display, which is kind of creepy and not everybody needs and uses and wants. Like, if they can bring it down, if they can bring it down even to like 1,500, I think that would be more palatable for a lot of people. And my audience, us, the nerds, we would be more on board to try it because 2,500 is really tough to swallow. And so I find these headlines a little misleading, but I think it makes perfect sense, right? Wouldn't you say that Apple would go for a non-Pro Vision next?
Vision Pro 2 was a misnomer. It should never have been something they were working on. It's 35, not 25.
Oh, yeah,
Vision
sorry.
Pro.
You see, I'm already like in my head forgot how expensive it is.
If they can bring this under 15 and then make the next one under that, a Vision, make what they need is the Vision Air, the Vision, and the Vision Pro. And you want the Air to be the thin, light, super powerful.
This does not work for Apple. It has to be simpler than that. Vision Air, Vision Pro, that's it. And the Air is a lightweight, the one Vision you take on the airplane. Yeah.
You want it under $1,000. It will fly off shelves. And by doing that, they will kick off spatial computing and build those killer experiences over 3 years. Without that, it won't.
I agree, but I think with Apple, we're going to see it to be 2,000, less than 2,000. It'd be $1,999 for Vision Air first gen. And then as, that makes it much more accessible. Now people get excited. Next gen Vision Air, there'll be a Vision Pro, of course, but next gen Vision Air will be in the 1,500. And then, I think it'll stabilize around that.
No,
I don't think Apple has remember, Apple made us all believe that $1,000 smartphone was a normal thing. And now we're at $1,500 for the folding phones. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think if they launched the Vision Air under 2K, the one thing I disagree with everything you said, apart from they're not going to go down to 1,500. They'll just keep going up. And that will become the standardized norm of everybody.
Okay. So maybe I'll do 1,500 and then go up. But my point is, it's not going to be. You don't expect it to be less than 1,500. I don't think that's reasonable. And because
that's fair.
Apple can charge more. Like freaking Apple Watch Ultra is $799. Like it's a phone. It's the price of a phone.
The last thing I'll say is when they get the Air down to that price, the Vision Air. We're going with Vision Air as the name. When they get it down to that 1,500 price. The key part to this, absolutely key, is not the overall retail price, is how much can you buy it through your carrier? That is the difference of if carriers can sell this,
but it doesn't
then
have 5G. It needs 5G for that because the carriers are not going to touch if it doesn't have 5G.
Disagree, and I'll tell you why briefly. Retail, and I'd spent about 12 years in retail,
you're
so
a
I
retail
understand.
Guy, I know.
I know retail. Carriers love Apple products because the ARPU, average revenue per user, is infinitely higher.
Yeah.
If they can sell a product, like for example, you can go to Verizon, T-Mobile, you can buy AirPods Pro because they're an accessory for your iPhone and you can pay for it over 2 years.
Yeah.
Same thing will happen to Vision Air.
Fair.
It's an opportunity, but they'll make sure you can only buy it if you're and have the connectivity and the options to buy it as part of a new iPhone sale, or you have to be on the Apple One Full Works Plus promo plan.
I see your point. I think it's very valid. But I'm just saying that, it's still going to be a bit pricey in our sale, even on a plan, right? Unless it can be bundled like it do bundle the watches, which.
The last thing I think I'll say is this brings back to what I said last year, and I think it's inevitable. Apple will one day do one major hardware bundle. You pay Apple $500 to $700 a month, and every year you get a new phone, a new Mac, a new watch, a new Vision, a new this, a new that. When they do that, and I said this to Emil 4 years ago, and I wrote this last year. When they do that, they will do that as soon as they have to start reporting iPhone sales numbers are lower. Because the minute they go there, they can go, we're no longer reporting individual hardware sales. We're now just talking subscription revenue. That's all Apple wants.
Oh my God, you're so right. And this is basically like leasing a car at that point, because if you add up all that hardware, you're looking at the price of a small car.
And you know what? People would buy it. And I'll tell you what, you offer me an Apple bundle with a new Mac Studio or a MacBook Pro and iPad and all of this every year, and they have to get to yearly upgrades on this because it doesn't work otherwise. You offer me that for $500 to $700, I'll snap your hand off right now.
I think $5, and you get an iPhone, an iPad, a MacBook of some kind, AirPods, watch,
Apple TV, like watch, Apple TV. Just
the stuff that you can throw in for free. Yeah, well, maybe there's a $7.99 plan that adds a desktop machine to that, but most people don't care about that. Mac Studio is an exception.
It also depends on how you customize and build your own bundle and stuff like that. But that's the future, and that will be the last thing I reckon Tim Cook does.
Before he says, that up. Mic drop. Bye-bye. I'm out of here.
Yeah, and I think because he's a supply chain man, he will recognize the value of that. The thing that will happen is, and the reason it's amazing for them is because they'll take all the old hardware in, i.e. the trade-ins, and because you have to exchange your old one for new one, just like the upgrade program. Refurb, and then offer the bundle at $400 with slightly older hardware. Job done.
Yep.
This is how you build an ecosystem play that gets people in. And here's the crazy thing I realized about iPhone upgrade program. Once you get to a year, you're basically locked in for life.
Pretty much.
You'll never stop. So
there you go. Well, on that note, this is a great way to end. Nirave, tell folks where they can find you on the internet, where you write, where you have all your social media handles, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me at House of Technology. That's my brand. I write a newsletter, impact.hot.tech. Find me at Nirave, Nirave, on most platforms, or at Nirave G for golf, and at hot.tech spelled out, HOTDOTTECH. Thanks for following. Yes,
folks. Subscribe to the newsletter and remember to check out Nirave's stuff on social. And you can find me at Tankrl, TNKGRL. That's my handle on all the social media. That's Twitter, X, Blue Sky, Instagram. It's like the comic book character Tankrl. Just drop all the vowels. You get my handle. Find me there, talk with me and Nirave about this podcast. And, the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com. We're on all the major podcasting platforms. So if it's your first time here, please subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe if you like it. Spread the good word. And then, of course, there's a YouTube channel, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell below. You know how it works with YouTube. So please consider it. There's a bunch of unboxing videos there and stuff like that. And then finally, if you want to support me and help me out with this podcast, there's a Patreon, patreon.com/TNKGRL. That's basically where you can get a video version of the podcast. It comes out a day in advance usually, and it we get to show you phones like we did with the GT6 today. And we get to see, yeah, exactly. And you get to see our faces and, our reactions and our gestures. It's a lot of fun. So it's a nice little bonus, $5 a month for the video. Every week you get a podcast. So consider helping out if you can. I'd appreciate it. There's other tiers and perks there if you want as well. So that's patreon.com/tankerl. That's patreon.com/TNKGRL. And I want to thank our sponsor this week, Mint Mobile. So as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And finally, thanks again, Nirave, for being my guest and rescuing me this week with this emergency. I really appreciate you kind of filling in last minute. Thank you.
Always. Thank you for having me, darling.
Always great insights. We'll have you on the show again, of course. And folks, we will have another show next week, so stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.
Bye.